You know what is genuinely wild about Australian property in 2026? We have been told for 2 decades that prices only go up, that bricks and mortar is the safest investment in the country. But here is what nobody is telling you. Suburbs, where Chris Hemsworth made house prices famous, have collapsed by over 30% from their peak. Suburbs, where Melbourne professionals paid $2 million for weekenders, are now sitting unsold at 19% below last year. Suburbs in Australia's most prestigious postcodes, where median prices have fallen by hundreds of thousands of dollars in the past 12 months alone. In some of the most expensive postcodes in this country, homeowners who bought at the 2022 peak are watching hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity disappear in real time. Wait until you see number 1, because it was literally the celebrity capital of Australia just 3 years ago, and it now holds one of the largest peak-to-trough declines of any major suburb in the country. If you want this kind of unfiltered Australian property data every week, hit subscribe. Let's get into it. Number 10. Mosman, New South Wales. Mosman is one of the most prestigious addresses in Sydney. Lower North Shore, harbour views, private schools, Defence Force history. The kind of suburb where a 4-bedroom Federation house was selling for over $7 million during the pandemic boom. On paper, Mosman should be untouchable. The data says otherwise. The median house price has fallen 3.17% over the past 12 months to $5.81 million, and the quarterly drop has been even sharper. The unit market is bleeding faster, down 7.35%. Mosman sits squarely in Sydney's top quartile, which has now declined for 5 consecutive months. The problem is not that buyers don't want to live in Mosman, it's that the buyer pool above $5 million is thin and extremely rate sensitive. When the RBA started hiking again in February and March 2026, borrowing capacity for premium buyers shrank overnight. People planning to upgrade from Cremorne or Neutral Bay suddenly couldn't qualify for the same loan they could 6 months earlier. Properties that would have sold in 14 days at auction in 2024 are now sitting for 40+ days with multiple price reductions before they move. The slow bleed is real, and the longer the rate cycle stays restrictive, the deeper the correction goes. Number 9. Bondi Beach, New South Wales. Here is something strange happening at Bondi Beach right now. If you own a house here, you're winning. House prices are up 12.69% in the past 12 months. The median sits at $4.86 million, and trophy houses are still attracting fierce competition. If you own an apartment here, you're losing badly. Median unit values in Bondi Beach have collapsed 15% in 12 months. That is one of the steepest unit price declines anywhere in Sydney. Median listing prices for units are down further. Apartments are now sitting on the market for 82 days on average before selling. The gap between Bondi houses and Bondi units has never been wider. So what's going on? Bondi Beach has more apartments than houses by a factor of 5. Investors flooded into the market between 2020 and 2022, chasing short-term rental income from tourists and young professionals working from home. New developments came online. NSW short-term rental rules tightened. Working from home gave way to return to office mandates. Rental yields stopped justifying the prices. What's left is a flooded apartment market where vendors are now negotiating heavily to find buyers. The houses are still rare and protected. The apartments are sliding. Same postcode. 2 completely different markets. One of them is the worst performing apartment market in eastern Sydney. Number 8. Brighton, Victoria. Imagine you bought a 4-bedroom house in Brighton in late 2022 for $3.7 million. You stretched. You borrowed to the limit. The agent told you Brighton always grows. Today, that house is worth $3.33 million. Brighton sits on Port Phillip Bay, about 11 kilometres south of Melbourne CBD, Bayside Premium, famous for the colourful beach boxes. And the median house price has fallen 9.55% over the past 12 months. Vendor discounting is running at -7.7%. Houses are sitting on market for 43 to 51 days. The top end of Melbourne's market saw values fall 1.7% over just 3 months, the steepest decline of any price tier in the country, and Brighton sits right inside that top tier. The math is brutal. The higher the price, the fewer buyers who can absorb a rate rise. Brighton's typical buyer is a senior professional in their 40s or 50s, often dual income, often with significant equity to roll forward. But every 25 basis point hike from the RBA cuts borrowing capacity by tens of thousands of dollars. 2 consecutive hikes took Melbourne auction clearance rates from the 60s down to 57%. That number, 57%, is critical. Anything below 60% is a buyer's market in Melbourne. Brighton vendors who listed in early 2026 expecting late 2024 prices are being told to either drop their reserve or pull the listing entirely. Number 7. Sorrento, Victoria. Down 19%, down 21% on listings, down $400,000 on the median in 12 months. Sorrento is on the Mornington Peninsula, about 90 minutes from Melbourne. Historic seaside village, limestone buildings, ferry to Queenscliff. The kind of place where Melbourne professionals bought weekenders for $2 million in 2021, thinking they'd never sell. Now they're all selling at the same time, and there is nobody on the other side of the trade. The median house price in Sorrento has collapsed 19% over the past 12 months to $1.7 million. Median listing prices have fallen even further, at minus 21.74%. Houses are sitting on market for 80 days, with vendor discounting at minus 9.2%. Here is the timeline of how this happened. During the pandemic, Melbourne professionals with newfound remote work flexibility decided they needed a beach house. Demand exploded. A 1970s fibro cottage 2 streets back from the beach went from $1.2 million to $2.4 million in 18 months. Then came 2024, return to office mandates, interest rates climbing, and the killer punch, Victoria's land tax changes specifically targeted second properties. Holiday homeowners did the math on a property they used 6 weekends a year that was now costing them $80,000 in interest, plus land tax, plus maintenance. They all hit the market at once. The result is a glut of holiday homes competing for a buyer pool that has effectively vanished. This is what a coordinated unwind looks like. If number 7 is uncomfortable, what's coming next is brutal. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Number 6. Lorne, Victoria. Lorne house prices fell 5%. Lorne unit prices fell 33%. Yes, 33% in 12 months. That is the kind of number you see in a financial crisis, not a normal market correction. And it's happening right now on the Great Ocean Road. Lorne is 2.5 hours from Melbourne, forested hills meeting the sea, the pier to pub swim every January, beach houses with ocean views that became the COVID dream for thousands of Melbourne families. The split between houses and units tells you exactly what is happening. Houses are held by long-term owners with equity who can ride it out. Units are held by investors who bought specifically for short-term rental income, and those investors are now stampeding for the exit. Why? Same Victorian land tax shock that hit Sorrento. Same end of the work from anywhere fantasy. But Lorne has an extra problem the bigger peninsula towns don't have. Its economy is almost entirely tourism and second homeowners. There is no major employer. There are no commuters. The school is small. The hospital is basic. When Melbourne investors stop buying weekenders, Lorne has nothing else to absorb the shock. If you own a holiday apartment in Lorne, you are watching one of the worst performing unit markets in Victoria unfold in real time. Number 5. Blairgowrie, Victoria. Sorrento gets all the headlines. Portsea gets the celebrity sales. But the suburb between them is having the quietest disaster on the Mornington Peninsula. Blairgowrie sits between Sorrento and Rye. Bay beaches, pine forests. The kind of postcode where Melbourne families have bought holiday homes for 3 generations because Sorrento got too expensive. Now even Blairgowrie is too expensive for the people who used to buy here. The median house price in Blairgowrie has fallen 10.78% over the past 12 months to $1.4 million. Vendor discounting is running at minus 9.2%. Houses are sitting on market for 48 to 59 days. Auction clearance rates have collapsed to 23.5%, down 73% from the previous year. That is not a softening market. That is an auction system that has effectively stopped working. Here is what makes Blairgowrie particularly exposed. Unlike Sorrento, it doesn't have the historic village pull. Buyers came here for affordability, relatively speaking, when Sorrento and Portsea got out of reach. That meant Blairgowrie was always one tier of demand removed from the trophy buyers. When Sorrento softened, Blairgowrie's secondary buyers evaporated even faster. If you bought a Blairgowrie weekender in 2021 because you missed out on Sorrento, you bought into the same correction one tier down. The relief is that the absolute drop is smaller. The pain is that your buyer pool is thinner. Number 4. Kooyong, Victoria. Most premium suburbs fall because too many people sell at once. Kooyong is falling for a different reason. Kooyong is a tiny pocket of inner East Melbourne, about 7 kilometres from the CBD, famous for the tennis tournament, tree-lined streets. The kind of suburb where residents prefer you don't know about it. House prices have fallen 6.3% over the past 12 months. The median sits at $3.68 million, down from a peak comfortably above $4 million. The number of transactions has dropped sharply, and the few sales that do happen are setting lower comparables every month. Here is the specific mechanism. Kooyong's natural buyer is a step-up family, somebody coming from Malvern, Glen Iris, or Hawthorne East. They sell their $2.2 million house, take their equity, and add another $1.5 million in borrowing to buy in Kooyong. That ladder has been sawn off in the middle. Higher rates mean those step-up buyers can no longer borrow the extra $1.5 million they need, so they don't sell their Malvern house. So Kooyong loses its primary buyer pool. What's left is downsizers who are not in a rush, and international buyers who have gone quiet since geopolitical tensions spiked in early 2026. Listings in Melbourne's inner east are 12% above the 5-year average. Vendors in Kooyong who listed expecting 2024 conditions are seeing properties pass in at auction, then negotiating 3 to 6% below reserve in private treaty afterwards. The decline isn't loud, it's structural. If you've made it this far, you clearly do your homework before making a move. Subscribe. The top 3 are going to make everything so far look like a warm-up. Number 3, Toorak, Victoria. There is a reason Toorak is having one of the worst corrections of any premium suburb in Australia. Actually, there are 3 reasons. But first, the damage. The median house price in Toorak has fallen 8.28% in the past 12 months. According to one analysis, the median has dropped a full 10.3%. Vendor discounting, the gap between asking price and final sale price, is running at minus 13.3%. Houses are sitting on market for 30 to 39 days. Toorak is Melbourne's most prestigious address, has been for over 100 years, and it is bleeding. Reason 1, the buyer pool is structurally tiny. Above $4 million, only a small group of households in Australia can write that check, and those households are extremely rate sensitive because their borrowing is typically large. When the RBA hikes, even the rich feel it. Reason 2, Toorak wealth is tied to financial markets. When the ASX wobbled in early 2026 alongside global uncertainty, the Toorak buyers' confidence wobbled with it. People who were ready to spend $8 million in November suddenly wanted to wait until the picture cleared. Wait turned into hold, turned into postpone, indefinitely. Reason 3, the listing wave. Vendors who sat on properties through 2023 and 2024 hoping for a price recovery have given up waiting. They are now all listing at the same time. Listings in premium Melbourne are 12% above the 5-year average, and Toorak is contributing disproportionately. 3 forces compounding at the same time. If you bought in Toorak at the 2022 peak, your property today is worth roughly 10 to 15% less than what you paid, before stamp duty and holding costs. The owners holding long-term don't care. The owners who need to sell in 2026 are taking a beating. Number 2, Sunshine Beach, Queensland. Sunshine Beach has a problem that doesn't have a name yet. The market isn't crashing, it isn't falling, it just stopped existing. Sunshine Beach sits just south of Noosa Heads on the Sunshine Coast. Quiet luxury, architectural homes, median house prices that briefly cracked $3 million during the COVID boom. The kind of postcode where international buyers compete with Melbourne families for trophy beach houses. Then came the silence. CoreLogic data shows the median house price has fallen 24.72% over the past 12 months to $2.2 million. Units are down 7.07%. Sales volumes have collapsed to less than half of pandemic-era activity. Just 45 houses sold in the entire suburb in the past year. That is less than 4 sales a month in a market that used to do triple that. This is what a buyer-seller standoff looks like. Sellers refuse to accept reality. They paid $4 million in 2022, and they are not about to admit they overpaid. So they list at $3.8 million, get nothing, eventually adjust to $3.5 million, get nothing, pull the listing. Buyers refuse to pay 2022 prices. They watch the same properties trade 25 to 30% lower in private deals. They know the next rate decision could push the median further down, so they wait. The dynamics here are extreme because Sunshine Beach is overwhelmingly second homes. There's almost no permanent rental market. There's no commuter base. When the wealthy interstate buyer who sustained Sunshine Beach reassesses their portfolio in a high-rate environment, the trophy beach house is the first thing to go. Nobody actually needs a Sunshine Beach trophy home. And right now, almost nobody actually wants one at the asking price. Number 1, Byron Bay, New South Wales. In June 2022, the median house price in Byron Bay was $3.45 million. In April 2026, it is around $2.3 million. Over $1 million of median value, gone. That is a 31.3% collapse from peak. And the data says Byron has not bottomed yet. This is the largest premium suburb correction story in Australia, and it has a hero, a villain, and a tragic ending. The hero was lifestyle. Byron Bay was the hippie beach town that became a celebrity playground. Chris Hemsworth bought there. Zac Efron bought a 128-hectare estate just north for $20 million. Matt Damon stayed for months while filming Thor. The Hemsworth effect pushed median prices to mythical levels. Sydney and Melbourne professionals with new remote work flexibility convinced themselves they could run their corporate jobs from the beach. The villain was the math. A 3-bedroom beach cottage at $4 million meant a $20,000 a month mortgage at 6% rates. Insurance premiums after the 2022 floods went through the roof. Building approvals running at 16.7% of total existing dwellings meant new supply kept arriving, even as demand evaporated. Byron Shire imposed a 60-day cap on holiday lets. Companies pulled remote workers back to the office. The celebrities started quietly listing. The tragic ending is still being written. CoreLogic data shows another 10.81% fall in the most recent 12 months alone. Houses are sitting on market for 59 days. The vendor at the top of the market, who paid $4.2 million for that beach cottage in early 2022, is now staring at a property worth maybe $2.8 million. Real money. The kind of money that takes most Australians a decade to accumulate. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The Melbourne and Sydney buyer, who would have piled in 2 years ago, is now waiting to see if it falls another 10% before moving. Building approvals continue. Holiday rental restrictions are not loosening. The downward pressure has not exhausted itself. If you bought in Byron Bay between 2020 and 2022, you are the case study future property economists will use to teach the difference between a lifestyle and an investment. Those are 10 Australian suburbs where home prices are crashing right now. Drop a comment with the suburb that shocked you most, and subscribe for unfiltered Australian property data every week.